What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? This is Stardust here, and welcome to a new video here on the YouTube channel. Now, this video is one that all your friends who are excited for Dying Light 2 are going to want to absolutely watch. So if you're excited, or you know someone who is, make sure to share this video and make sure to leave a like and a comment, and even subscribe if you're excited for Dying Light 2 or other video game style content. Now, let's read this. So this by a user called u/ponyprison says, I've played 50 hours of Dying Light 2. Now, I'm an editor for The Gamer, and I did an AMA a few months ago after attending the Dying Light 2 preview event. So I'm back to answer all your questions about the full game. Now, he goes on to link his full review, link his full review, and he also mentions what he played on as well. Now, you can find that down in the link below, because I will be posting a link to this AMA. So let's go through the questions. Do you have anything good to say about the game? Seems you're able to find all the negatives. Any positives you'd like to share? Pony Prison says, I think my review speaks to how much I love the traversal system. Huge improvement over the first, which was already good. No more accidentally throwing yourself off a building with such tic-tac. Love all the new abilities, and finding ways to string them together never gets old. Such a fun world to run around in. That's pretty much a Dying Light trait at this point. Is there any New Game Plus? No, that wouldn't work because gear is upgrades that allow you to access new areas. It'd be like New Game Plus in Metroid or something. And then he goes on to mention about the grappling hook in a moment. So you play the majority of the game without the grappling hook. What difficulty did you play on? Do your choices really matter? Then he said, you don't get the grappling hook until very late in the game, which also goes to explain why there couldn't be New Game Plus, because I imagine you need the grappling hook to get into very late game areas. I played on normal, and I started a game on hard. Whether or not your choices matter depends on what you mean by matter. But no, they don't. Again, you have to remember, everyone who's watching this, that this is Pony's opinion, and I do recommend you to make your own if you really like Dying Light and you just love the world itself, which is exactly what I'm going to be doing too. Can you somehow side with the Renegades, or at least have an alliance with them, or something, or are they just bad guys? You can't side with them, no, they're just the bad guys. So that is a good indication that the Renegades are just going to be people that we do battle with, rather than us being able to turn into a villain, you know, as the game progresses. How is the gore in Dismemberment? Very bloody, very gory. That said, Dismemberment is kind of weird. You'll often dismember someone and see their severed arm on the ground next to the fully membered body. I don't recall ever being able to target a body part for Dismemberment either, it just sort of happens. Everyone is very ragdoll. Now, you can look at this in two ways. You can look at this as either a good thing or a bad thing. Obviously, the negatives can be that he's not sure that you can target a specific body part, and that everyone, you know, is very ragdoll, so that could be very weird for your experience. I think that for me personally, the only thing that I dislike is, of course, the visual bug that shows a fully membered body after you've dismembered a part of their body, right? And I think that with that, as long as that's fixed, then I think I'm okay with what Pony Prison has described here. How's enemy variety? It was pretty lacking in the original. Banshee, Howler, Spitter, Demolisher, Volatile, and one other. I think that's it. But Pony said that with a question mark, and you also have to remember that Pony's only played 50 hours, so there is a very good chance that there is a lot more there. How impactful are the choices? How is the faction system? Pony goes on to say, not nearly as impactful as has been suggested. Really underwhelming. Hugh says, can you give an example? Because I've seen other reviews say the exact opposite of what you're saying. Pony says, all choices lead back to the middle. You may see a different scene or go on a different quest, but you always end up in the same place. The story only moves in one direction. Sometimes you play the exact same mission with a different character's voice in your ear. You can't shape the story with your choice until the very, very end. So, for anyone who's a bit confused by this, essentially what Pony is saying is that yes, the story does get impacted in a way right at the very end. I like the fact, though, that you're able to change the type of quests that you can actually be on. For me personally, I wasn't expecting anything that would literally change the shape of the game entirely in every single choice. Sort of similar to a Telltale game, I would imagine that a lot of the choices you make just give different responses and different reactions, and thus you go on a different path, but the ending is probably going to be the same. Take The Walking Dead in Telltale, for example, where Lee still dies regardless of the choices that you make. Does the virus give you superhuman abilities, like some theories have suggested? Pony put the eye thing, the eye emoji thingy-majig. Now, I am quite excited by this. So I do know that obviously your character gets infected very early on in the game, and you actually have a signal that tells you how close you are going to be to being infected. Now you can get immunity boosters, or you can go under a UV light, I believe, and that stops the infection. But it seems to be the closer you get to becoming a zombie, the more superhuman abilities that you can potentially unlock. Is the zombie count lower? Seems like there's less hordes and smaller amount of zombies roaming around during the day. Way fewer hordes. You'll only find big groups around specific POIs. There's still zombies everywhere, but the packs are not very dense at all. Now, this is almost a little bit disappointing, but again, this could be just Pony's experience. But if you guys remember Dying Light 1, there was a lot of times where if you just stood on a car, you have zombies literally trying to fight each other in order to get a snack of your toes. So it's weird that that isn't the case now, but again, I have to say that reviewers definitely do rush their video games, so I would be shocked to see this not being the case, but at the same time, it could still be Pony's experience that may have, attributed to that. How is the story and choices? The reviewers are saying it's not that great, and that worries me slightly. Pony said the story, writing, and choice system is the most disappointing part of the game. Like most games that promise your choices matter, they actually don't. All roads lead back to the middle. It gets a bit more complicated towards the end, but by that point, it's hard to care about the characters or the story. Not great. Now again, I do have to say that the reason that I wanted to read all this is not to paint Dying Light 2 in a negative light, because it's something that I'm very excited by, but I definitely think it's quite interesting, and I definitely encourage you all to check out different reviews. For example, I know the Game Informer's review was very, very, very positive, calling it one of the best RPGs that they have played in the longest time. So again, it really is based on different people's experiences. Do you think this game is an overall improvement over the first? The parkour is definitely improved, and the day-night cycle is more interesting. Overall, it's hard to say, but I think the first one is probably a better, more cohesive game, at least after years of updates. DL2 just has too many half-baked, undeveloped mechanics. Now, I'm not sure how you can really express that yet before being able to have more time with it. Again, this is a game that is supposed to be 500 hours long, and of course this individual stated they spent 50, so I think that is kind of more like, try it yourself and see what you believe. And again, I do express that even though a lot of this seems quite negative, I'm doing this more for the news portions. You make up your own minds, because I genuinely think that would be much better. How's the actual zombie killing? Fun or a chore? How's crafting in this one? What can you craft? Zombie killing is nice and bloody, but very simple. The crafting is a big letdown. You can only craft consumables like resistance boosters and knives and mods. Now, I'm not terribly bothered by this, because I like the thought of being able to find really cool items in the wilderness. Are all the infected types back in the sequel? The Toad, the Screaming Child, etc. Also, what new infected types are in the game that may not have been revealed yet? Thanks. Pony says there's no children. They've been replaced by adult screamers that act as the nighttime patrol, similar to the volatiles of the first game. You won't really see volatiles unless you specifically seek them out. I think besides the screamer, there's only one new type of infected, and it only shows up briefly near the end. Now, I wonder what that one would actually be. I'm looking forward to being able to experience that myself. If you guys have any idea, let me know in the comments down below. Does higher FPS make the game smoother and easier to maneuver? Can you mostly play in the day like in the first game, and which time of day would you prefer and why? How annoying was the infection mechanic? About as bad as the Far Cry 2 malaria mechanic, if you have any knowledge on that, and did it affect your enjoyment of the game? Sorry for the amount of questions, but thank you for your time. Pony says high FPS definitely makes a huge difference, yeah. The day-night cycle has a big impact. You can explore different places depending on time of day, and it's great. That sounds really dope. I'm really excited for that being the case, that depending on the time of day means you can access certain areas, which may lead to more interesting encounters. The infection timer becomes meaningless fairly quickly. I never thought about it after a few upgrades, and by the end, my apologies, I had a giant pile of unused immunity boosters. Now, again, this can be looked at as a positive and a negative. I know that a lot of people were very worried about the immunity timer, and that they didn't want to feel restricted in what they do. This kind of allows you to feel that you are in control of what you're doing, but if you want to, there is a risk reward there. If you let it get closer, you may be able to get supernatural abilities. And there you go, ladies and gentlemen. So that is the full video of the AMA of I played 50 hours of Dying Light 2. I want to thank Pony Prison for giving the chance on this Reddit to actually do this AMA, because it gave a lot of information. And if you want to see more, link will be down in the description below. Thank you all for watching this video. I really have enjoyed this, and I'm looking forward to being able to give you my first impressions of Dying Light 2 and a full review once I get a few more hours on it. Make sure to subscribe for things like tutorials, guides, news, and much more on your favourite video games. I'll see you in a bit.